there is audio and everything is working. Yeah? Okay, be a few seconds. Yeah. Yeah, I know. Takes about 8 or 9 seconds. Yep, great. All right. So thank you all for attending. Yeah. So there's probably a lot of people out there who attend the meditations consistently. So you have a basic understanding of my relationship to actually being here and teaching and doing this. Yeah. So, but there could be others that are out there, yeah, that haven't really done this before. You guys have been to shows, so other people might be going online, checking out the meditations. So, just to share a little bit, uh, the process of being able to understand the fact of my incarnation, yeah, the reincarnation of Jesus, or the incarnation of Maitreya, or the incarnation of an avatar, yeah, is a difficult thing for humanity to understand because of this uh, new age relationship inside of humanity. Yeah, there, it's new age is a shortcut. Yeah, it's you take all kinds of courses to become a master or to become a scientist or a pseudo-scientist, numerology or whatever. And then you think you can be a practitioner, and your thought of a practitioner is to counsel people rather than counseling yourself and changing and being a better person, and maybe one day be wise enough to have the virtues to counsel other people. Yeah, but that's not what goes on in the new age. Everybody's drinking and everybody's going about what they're doing, and they're getting worse in their psychic experience and their interpersonal relationships. They're still channeling, and they're very much deluded in a process of who they are and who other people are. Yeah, and how they conceive this world, and how they conceive the relationships in their life, without it being a delusion of grandeur, really blown up, like some kind of soap opera. So it's really difficult to try and cut through all that and get to understand me. Yeah, because if you think Jesus, then you go, oh, well, he's the guy who died on the cross and did all that and everything in Christianity. And then you may have psychic experiences in this new age where all of a sudden you think you're a disciple of Jesus, or you're this and that of some special interest of Jesus because Jesus is here, and it's not the case. It doesn't work like that. The processes of reality is that people are in the moment in the everyday reality no matter where they're at. And they're not really conceiving what's going on with the teacher. During the time of Jesus, they were very, very much confused as to who I am and whether or not they understood what was going on. Yeah. And, so they just weren't my students. And I left at 33. And that was the end of that. So most of the people that people claim to be in relationship to me in the channeling new age reality never knew me, had no relationship to me, but have a strong fanatical connection that makes them think they really wish they had had a relationship with me, because they lost me at 33. And I didn't want to see him again. And I had no interest in that kind of thing. I just kept moving forward on my day-to-day life. What's tomorrow like? What's the next day like? Yeah. So despite the fact there's a whole lot of people that weren't with me, and a lot of history is based on that reality, then when we come into this new age and all these people channeling and having psychic experiences, they're all delusions of grandeur. And they perplex humanity. They create a barrier between me and humanity, and that's really the false prophets. You know, people who think they have a close, interconnected relationship to me, and that relationship isn't settled in reality. It's settled more in a fanatical reality. Yeah, so that could be the Pope, that could be the Dalai Lama, that could be a lot of people who have a relationship to what is believed to be my life, my previous life, and a religion that's dogmatically inclined to believe that they're the disciples of that religion. Yeah, and where in reality they're not behaving. And if I was there with them and they really were my students and this really was continued on as a lineage, you know, and they were telling the truth, it would be a lineage. And I'm here, and this would be an disconnected scenario between Buddhism and Christianity. Yeah, because my reality is that I went from what was known as Christianity back into my world of Buddhism. And I went back to India. And I went on into recapitulating my previous life. And I gained incredible enlightenment at a very early age. And I continued in that process. And I brought and gathered all together all the scholars of Buddhism. And I helped them further my recapitulation and their recapitulation as being the disciples of Buddha in previous life. Yeah? And that's really my relationship to the world. That's why I do and have all these Buddhist things all around me, and why I support Tibetan Buddhism. But it's not what's expected of Jesus Christ. I'm made up in all these delusions of grandeur. My real activity and my real history, is lost in a process of people really being swayed to not look any further than misinterpretation, and confusing you with that interpretation and saying this is the absolute truth and this is it. Anything further than this, anything added to this is wrong. That's written in the Bible. But yet the Bible was written in the way that people interpret it, as though God sat down and wrote this Bible from one beginning to the end. It didn't happen like that. It's a series of letters by a whole bunch of people who are a bunch of fanatics, and there are bits and pieces in there that are God. And God pulled it together. And it really takes a lot of interpretation and understanding to get through that, to be able to get to where I'm at and understand the process where Christ really wasn't stuck there. The teachings that I gave wasn't stuck in the process of Christianity. My relationship was to reincarnation, and that was taken out of the Bible. And if you spend the time to study, and don't listen to New Age, but take the time to study, and you'll find that anything written from 500 years after Christ, reincarnation starts getting taken out. Slowly but surely, you get into 1200, 1500, it's almost completely obliterated. You get to Europe, it's almost completely gone. You get to the kings and the queens and Constantinople and all these different people who are leaders in power over the relationship of projecting this Bible and rewriting the Bible. And taking out things that I did and making it something that it was not a complete teaching. It was only up to when I was 33. And I lived a whole lot longer than that. So you have to include my work in Buddhism in order to complete the Bible, to complete the Second Testament, to get an understanding of who Christ is and how reincarnation works and how we're all saved. And it incorporates a past reality that actually does blend into the Bible, the teachings of Buddha, and the reality of the Christ and the externalization of the Christ and the relationship to Christ as the form of Buddha. and the interpretation of what Buddha means. And that's very clearly written in the Bible. But it's not interpreted that way because it has to be something that's thought as a dogmatic office. And everybody was making it up as they go. Oh, maybe he's God, maybe he's not God. Who's the Holy Spirit? Who's Mary? Well, let's make her God. Let's make her maybe just a goddess. Yeah? Let's make the disciples highly incarnated saints that we can all go to God through. And you're missing everything Jesus said. You can only go through Jesus. Yeah. He didn't say you can go through the ones who like me the most. Yeah. He said just one thing, to make it clear so that the teachings were the same as Buddha. Yeah. They were word for word. Everything was clear. And that way it was to heal the East and the West, the relationship of the teachings of Asia and the relationships of the teachings of Egypt or the West. Yeah. And that reality at that time were the two greatest delusionary focuses on the planet. Yeah, the Caesar, those influences of government, those influences of power, and then the influences that went on in China and Tibet and India. Those were influences of power. And they were all at the same time struggling, and they were trying to do everything they could to maintain the influence of power. Yeah. And that power was through tyranny. It was through control and manipulation and writing everything in a form that there was no God. Yeah. It's a really strong belief that God doesn't exist. And it's a really strong belief of manifest destiny. That a person has to take and control destiny even if it means killing millions of people in doing so. Manifest destiny. Every tyrant does that. Every tyrant lives by manifest destiny. Every king, queen lives by manifest destiny. And that's what destroys the planet. That's what keeps the influence of the teachings of what would happen if Christ was to come. Would we actually be able to interpret his reality, or would we totally misinterpret it in order to make people think that it happened this way rather than another way, so that if we have it happen in this way, where he dies on a cross, and he goes to heaven, and he's in heaven, and now you have to pray to him, and those influences are only by the Holy Spirit, and that's an influence that only happens through those who are disciples. They can purify you and clarify you and bring about a church that will make it possible for you to enter heaven on earth. Those words you hear so often in churches, and it's not true. It's not true. Look at this earth. Look at around us. Nothing's gotten better because of those places. Not one thing. Yeah. So the influence of my life living in the time of Jesus and no one knowing anything about my life in Buddhism and my next lives after that, my previous lives to that, is what influences the earth and everybody on it to be under the tyranny, the false prophets. Because imagine, what if, the 12 disciples, why would it be that they would freak out and run in fear the way they did? Why would they behave that way? An average normal person would at least get in the crowd and look and see what the heck's happening and do their best to scream out and say, no, don't take him. The opportunity was there all the time, and they were there. They were right there, but none of them said anything. And that does not mean that they're a disciple. That doesn't mean that they're a disciple. And then if we take history and move it through that and take those people for their actions, then you can't see my actions. All the actions that I carried out are completely covered over by the actions of these disciples, by everybody in a delusion of grandeur thinking they had something good to do from that point on. a letter they wrote, a thing they said, a healing they manifested, an awakening to people toward Christianity. Did they really? Or did they just lead people to a cult? Yeah? Like lambs to slaughter. Yeah? Or in reality, if you study it, you'll find many of those disciples ended up in India. And yet everybody else remained behind after listening to that crap. And the disciples kept looking for Jesus. They went to Delhi. They went to India. Because they heard from all around that I was still alive. Yeah? And that I'm talking to people and I'm healing people. And I'm telling people I'm still alive. Yeah? And I'm not dead. And I'm becoming very well known. Year after year after year. And they just didn't live long enough to find me. They were stoned to death for lying. Stoned to death for betraying. And that does not make them a saint or a martyr. Yeah? It's a process of, life itself. Yeah? If you don't do good things, you don't have good things happen. And you can't see what good things can happen if you're too afraid or if you're too deluded and angry. Because I think they were angry. I don't think that they were afraid. I think that they were angry. Yeah? And that anger, that process is their process. Everything that they had during the time, if you read the Bible, you'll see that they were angry disciples who constantly questioned Jesus, constantly leaving him in a state of, why can't you guys understand? Don't you ever listen to me? Can't you even heal someone? Don't you have any faith at all? Those are the words that are in the Bible. Yeah? So it's really important you get past that and you seek out the reality of my whole reincarnation, my whole life, that I lived in that life. And you can't do that if you leave out Tibetan Buddhism. Yeah, it's here for a reason. It says what it is, and it is what it says. Yeah, it's about the reincarnation of Buddha and saints, and it's true. Yeah, and they go through real tests. They study, they worship, they praise God 24/7, life after life after life. And after many lives, they become a saint. And they're worthy of being called a Rinpoche. After 50, 60 reincarnations of being a lowly lama. Yeah, it happened. Yeah, tens of thousands of these true, remarkable saints exist. But you can't have any connection to them or any connection to me if you stop at the Jesus Christ parable. And if you sit with me and do meditation and you have some delusion of grandeur that this is some kind of, thing to do with the New Age, of anything to do with the New Age, you're absolutely missing the boat. Because if you study and you take the term Maitreya and you study India, you'll find Maitreya thousands of years back through the scripts, meeting every avatar, having a connection with every avatar, including Krishna, including Gautama Buddha, yeah, every single avatar. So it really takes a lot of study about the subject and not a shortcut. You can't think that some wise person's going to tell you the shortcut. That's not how it gets there. You actually got to cut through and find revelations about the one subject. And if you keep finding that revelation about the one subject, then it all kind of connects together. And you find that Maitreya is actually the reincarnation of Jesus the Christ. And Maitreya is the reincarnation of Sakyamuni Buddha. And Maitreya is the reincarnation of all the avatars. And you could literally find that if you do the study. Yeah? So it's really important to get past anything you found in New Age reality, because everything I say is just going to be a wave and not a consciousness. just a wave, because you'll have all this paranormal stuff, the recruiting agents of paranormal new age moving through you, yeah, keeping you from the relationship of taking a teacher. Because a new age is to keep you from ever meeting a teacher. It's to make you into a teacher. Does that make sense? And there is no such thing in the hierarchy. We don't go into studying and to be a student, to be a master. We go in to become aware of the master and want to live thousands of years under that relationship until we get under even greater influences of that relationship. And that's how our enlightenment works. It's through service. And it's not subserviency, it's the truth. I mean, everybody's got an individual reality. Buddha's got an individual reality. Everybody has an individual reality. And if we stay with New Age, we're going to have everybody's individual reality in a discerning, non-discerning matrix. Yeah, just a confusing state of, if you go online and you try and look up Jesus and anything beyond Jesus, nothing exists. He's never come back. Everybody says he's going to come back and the earth is going to be destroyed when he does. That's not good news. That's not information that's true. Yeah. So if you look for things like that and you don't have your right consciousness and act, if your way of being isn't in the right state, then you're going to be picking up the New Age envelope, information from them. Yeah, and they'll come in intellectual doctors. They'll come as, regular people. They're just there to give you the quick road, the easy path. I've got the truth. I know what you need to do. Do this. I'll tell you what to do. There's billions of those out there, and there's a whole ladder of that process, and it all leads to those really big fictitious New Age leaders like the Dalai Lama. So that's the pattern of what causes humanity to miss true spiritual teaching. Like, I'm sitting here and teaching, whatever teaching I give, if I say I'm the reincarnation of Jesus Christ, there's no way that can really helpfully, instinctually help you, until the healing of this process takes place and people literally stop the delusion of grandeur aspect in themselves, which sponsors the illusion in that New Age, because they're still holding on to their concept of what they picked up in the New Age, and they're trying to make sense of this from that New Age concept. And it ain't going to happen. It's just the Antichrist energy pushing on me. Because mine is just relativity. There's only one Christ. It's that Christ that reincarnates. And the teaching that comes from that Christ isn't the teaching that comes from someone who says they know that Christ. Because if you study, you'll find that no one knew Krishna, no one knew Jesus, no one knew Buddha. So anybody thinking that is deluded. Does that make sense? So it's really important to try and relax in anything that has to do with New Age and influence that in other people. So the influence of these two guys here, the two Karmapas, is their hardship, and all the hardship they've ever gone through is from the influence of this New Age thing. The process of people wanting to take shortcuts. And it's not that they're bad wanting to take shortcuts. They don't desire to take shortcuts. It's just that they don't have the spiritual soul to be the person they think they are. And that's called a delusion of grandeur. And if that happens inside them, they're actually taking the soul of the person who is that. And that's bad karma. That's really bad karma. And it sets up many different scenarios inside the world that keeps people from receiving divinity. We start seeing glamour, we start seeing divas, we start seeing words and things in the world that are totally disrespectful to heaven. Yeah, because we're giving our energy to delusion. Because it says it louder or it expresses it longer than other people. And that draws to them, other people in a fanatic way to be confused. And they're not thinking what that person wants them to think. They're just confused. And they're certainly not receiving God, because that New Age reality is what they believe their contact with God. And it's not. And that has very strong forces, extremely strong forces that radiate out of it. Yeah, and that affects other people. So the simplicity that's found in Buddhism that I try and help people come across, it seems simple, but it's not. If you look at the monasteries and you start off young and you go through all this stuff, that's not easy. And then there's retreats, and you got to learn how to make all the different objects, sacred objects, every single thing, all the paintings, you're developing every skill. You got to be a craftsperson on every level. Yeah. But that, if I say that, and people go, oh, okay, I better start doing it. And that's not the thing. We live thousands of lives. It's the orientation of us getting rid of our New Age concept of getting there quicker and getting to the point to where we have some humility and some patience, and we've disconnected from people who are channelers, that draw us in. Because there's people who are writing scripts out there that want to be, incarnated gods. And they're writing scripts in order to manifest that into the world. And they're coming from hell. They start off as hell beings. But then they realize they can't be hell beings. So they got to take the names of gods or angels or whatever. And that's where the New Age comes in. Because if you study the New Age, you'll find that right in the middle of it is Satanism. And all the magic and all the words and all the things that are included in it. But the externalized part of it is something that just looks similar to what it is you're looking for. And that's because it's scripted. And that being is just a masquerading, delusionary aspect of sex magic, money magic, the ability to psychically make people have dreams and thoughts and images and feelings, and in cooperation with that picture, with that plan inside of that lunar lord. And lunar lords do it all the time. You can look at Trump. He does it all the time. He's a big bully. He does it all the time. He wants to know what everybody's doing, what time you're doing it, where you're going, what's going on. You better be loyal to me. And if you're not, you're going straight to hell. You're fired and you're ruined. That's the influence of that New Age. It allows us to not be able to discern, discriminate. It gets us confused. So I'm just saying these things just so that you know your decisions to release from New Age and all those things have a compiling positive effect on humanity by helping people who can't control their delusions of grandeur. And they need help. And they get it from people who can and don't have that delusion of grandeur, but are manipulated by those people who have that delusion of grandeur. So the more that they relax from it, the less they're manipulated by it, and the less power those people have to continue what they're doing. And it doesn't get pulled off. We don't get another Sai Baba. We don't get another 5 groups of Hitlers and people like that coming into the world. So it depends on who's writing the play. And it's the New Age process and the process of the psychic influence, yeah, of us being able to manifest destiny. Yeah, the subtle words, yeah, and you don't really know what they mean, and you have no idea. You're just agreeing with Satan. Oh, I am 100% selfish. Yes, manifest destiny. I'm 100% totally zero. No, not no. I am 100%. Yeah, manifest destiny. Yeah, and it's that influence. No one explains what those words mean. What agreement you just made. Yeah, in thinking those thoughts. And New Age starts you off in that process. Yeah. So it's really important to hear what I'm saying, just so that you can get a reinforcement in what you're saying inside yourself as to the reasons as to why you don't have any relationship with that, and why you can better explain to other people why you shouldn't, without it being an emotional, it's the devil, stay away from it, don't do it, but more of a calm understanding that this really is something you've been through, and it has a major effect in a negative way. And there's a real positive world out there, and you can live in that positive world if you don't have these effects coming into your body. Yeah. So I'm going to do the invocation, and I'm going to do 2 angel pujas, yeah, as part of what I'm teaching. Yeah. And so the process of Buddhism and what's known as Christianity, the process is known as really the Messiah. Yeah. So in the angel invocations, their relationship of helping to awaken people's inner angelic reality, or their Buddha nature, yeah, and their good side, yeah. And so it mainly is the invocation to move people into a place in which they're responding from what is a natural earth condition. Yeah, there's diva, there's deva. Yeah, so and every living person likes rhythm. Yeah, every living person loves good food. Every living person loves the sight of something really beautiful and pretty, and those are our senses. And we all collectively have the same sensory impression upon things, and the way that we respond to things, and it's beauty. It has to do with beauty. Yeah. So our true beauty is the fact that we are an angel of light. Yeah, really, really, really soft. Yeah, no hard, pointed bullshit. Yeah, no analyzing, no gotta know interrogation angel. Yeah, just imagine angel. Can you imagine an angel doing that? Yeah, but it has horns. Yeah, and then there's other angels that don't do anything like that. They're very quiet. Yeah, and they just bless you, and you don't even know they're there. Yeah, that's reality. Yeah. Angels don't tell you they're there. Yeah. And they're there all the time. And the more we wake up, the more they're there. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it's not like there's a separate group of angels and then there's us little bitty human beings. The more that we awaken that, the more that the angels that are there will have a present expression into the present world. More than they do today. Right now, it's just heads down and not much they could do about it. Yeah? Only if you call. Only if your heart is in the right place. Yeah? Does that make sense? Because that's when miracles happen. Yeah? And they're always to lead you to the Lord. They're always to change your negative to a positive lifestyle. Yeah? So, and that's to change you to an angel. Yeah? By helping you see another angel. Yeah? Or see Jesus, or see the other side. Yeah? And all you're seeing is just another dimension that has nothing to do with the new age, but it has to do with the future. Yeah? Where we're from and where we're going. Yeah? But things are not going to look good if we don't get the good angel to express themselves. Yeah? And to wake up and to remember and to use as much love, and generosity and kindness as they can in order to wake up that silent angel that's there in the etheric field. Yeah? Does that make sense? Okay. All right. So let's do an invocation to do so. Because that's what I do. Everybody's got me doing all kinds of things, but this is what I do. And if you read the Bible, that is what I do. And if you read anything about Krishna, it is what I said. And if you read anything about Buddha, it's exactly what I say. So the main thing is to try and understand that my reincarnation, your reincarnation are simultaneous. And there's no time that you're jerked off into another alternative world or universe and we're not together. Yeah. Yeah. In this new age reality, you're set in a place to where you could go anywhere with your dog and, live a life that you think is still existing with a house and everything. Yeah. And that ain't going to happen. Yeah. Nothing like that's going to happen. We're going to continue living in this world, making it heaven. Yeah. And we're going to lose hate and we're going to gain more love. Yeah. And that process is only done through invocation, evocation, because it's another dimension. We need to bring it into effect. And the only way that that happens is through invocation, evocation, but by the emanation of everybody as an angel. Yeah, so let's do our invocation. Okay, just repeat after me. I invoke the power, the love, and the wisdom of my ashram, soul, and monad. To guide me into the right activity and the plan. To clarify and stimulate my mind. To transform and transmute my feelings and emotions. To energize and vitalize and heal my physical and etheric body. So there is a normal flow of energy in my physical and etheric body. Through this day and every day, I ask this in the name of the Christ to serve the One. All in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Okay, take a deep breath.
It was our past, the extraterrestrial guided our way. Open the door to the truth and light. Close the door to illusion and lies. God, bring peace to earth, awaken humanity, save them from the forces of astral projection. against the false illusion of the dark enemies of the energy of extraterrestrials. Call upon all the powers of all the angels to bring forth great protection amongst humanity, to protect us from the fallen lord. I invoke the angels, the angels of heaven. I invoke the archangels, the archangels of heaven.
Okay, just relax. Oops. Okay, just relax. Okay, open your eyes. So that was a little invocation, evocation. That's like in Tibet, we do these invocation evocations, and we it includes a whole lot of other things, but they're all basically things that I do, have been doing for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years in front of these people. I do pujas with my hands, and I taught them what those pujas meant. Yeah, and then they painted pictures of me doing pujas like that, and they did all these statues of me and a future statue of me as Maitreya. Yeah, So all these things in Tibetan, the the ancient relationship of Tibet and Buddhism is really a historical process that was during the moment in time, during the enlightened moment in time, when people were receiving teachings from a master, not afterwards, yeah, but during, yeah. Those impressions were made upon other masters, and those masters had perfect interpretation of the situation. And that's what you find in Tibetan Buddhism is there are many lineages because I've taken incarnation in many different areas of education. And I mastered every single one of those areas, and I introduced them, and I created monasteries behind them, and I created very specific ceremonial effects that they need to go through, which are these pujas, the very pujas that I give. They're the ones that are more advanced, the angel ones and the seven rays and all that, are extremely mystical pujas that are far off distant in the past that haven't really been carried over through lineage. Yeah, so they're more held in me, and they're still held in script, but it's more from me. And the more they study and find these things, the more they affirm them. When I went to Drepung and I was teaching there for the first time, the head of the library, the very head of the place, was listening to my teachings, and I tell them about the rays and about virtues and all of this, and they know they're talking to Tsongkhapa, so virtues is what they want to hear. They want to hear me say this. So I'm saying it, but I'm describing it. I'm describing every single virtue and how they work and what their names are and what glamours are in relationship to those things. And they're going, is there any place where we can read this? And I said, yeah, but it's in these blue books that I gave to Tibetan known as DK, Dwal Kul. And I said, you wouldn't happen to have them? And he said, yeah, as a matter of fact, we do. And they had them right there in the library, and they never read them, and they just had them. And they took me to the library, and I pulled them out, and I showed them the books, and they took those books and they wrote pujas off of those books, bringing back the pujas of the dispelling of world glamour and the relationship of the seven rays. And those puja books were given to the Dalai Lama as introduction of the return of Tsongkhapa and the incarnation of Maitreya. And these are Maitreya's teachings, the dispelling of world glamour. And that was given to the Dalai Lama. So my process of what I'm giving people, your teachings, the pujas that I give you, and the glamour relationships of those teachings are all encompassed in some pretty intense teaching. Yeah, and it's not things that are fully understood, even in Tibetan Buddhism. Yeah, the dispelling of world glamour and what's the cause of it? What are the real causes? And the last person to explain it was Tsongkhapa. So he started the Galupa sect, the sect of virtues, and developing virtues, and studying and understanding, and compiling the ability to develop virtues. So it's in that group that I'm recognized as the reincarnation of Tsongkhapa, and I have my lineages directly under that. But the teachings are mainly the teachings that I give here. Not teachings that I sit in Tibet and I give those teachings. They have glamours all around them and glamours in them, and everybody has these glamours. So I'm giving teachings, period. And so I'm not necessarily giving teachings to high students of Tibet or high students anywhere. I'm just giving teachings. And I give these teachings over and over and over again, have been openly for 30 years, since 1991. That's almost 30 years now, isn't it? Isn't that like 30 years? Gosh, seems like it. So yeah, but I wasn't supposed to give them until after 1991. Yeah, I wasn't supposed to say anything about myself and go and be a tuku and do any of that stuff. So, but after that time, I was able to give these teachings. So these are from the very beginning, the teachings that I gave, and it's the teachings that I will give all the way through. And it's teachings that recapitulates the ability for us to work in the light and never have to worry again about working in the dark as long as we realize that Christ exists. And we have to cut through everything it takes to get out of the delusions of grammar that you have anything to do special with Christ other than the fact that Christ exists. And that's that. It's a very disorienting scenario for people because the reality of all the false prophets out there want to have a big ego process as though they're like Bhagwan or Sai Baba or something. And they create this delusionary glamour episode of what it is to be a guru. And I'm a guru, and I'm not like that. Yeah. So for you to get to me, you got to get rid of all of that. You know that you gain from any of that process of pride and wishful thinking that even the disciple is an externalization of that same exact delusion of grandeur that I do not instill. I don't have that in me. Yeah. So for me to externalize as a teacher, my students can't have any delusions of glamour of any kind. Yeah. And that's what unveils them to be able to see the teacher rather than be in competition of what it is the teacher's saying or expressing or transmitting, because the level of that transmission is far different and could turn out to be conflicting to the level of personality expression that's coming from oneself that doesn't connect to the teacher. If you're not connecting to the teacher correctly, then quite often it's just a delusion of grandeur and a fanaticism of, like cults, whether it be Scientology or anything else. Yeah. So I give these teachings not to people, disciples, or individuals. I give these teachings to God. Yeah. And so that these teachings could be on earth and they could be expressed. And then that turns the wheel of Dharma. And then whatever destiny holds for humanity with these teachings coming into the earth and clearing, the things that cause real destiny from not manifesting, and turning out because of free will into manifestation of, manifest destiny, which is the shit we've got today, then, that's a real problem. Yeah. So it is the cleaning up of that area that changes the revelations of humanity, is the New Age process. Yeah. And cleaning that process up. So it's mainly like in seeing these two characters here, when humanity can look at these two guys and actually have some understanding of that they're having a problem with the reality that they're the same person and that they're incarnated in two separate bodies. Yeah. And how could that possibly be? The only way that could be is if they're actually an emanation of Buddha. And everybody's an emanation of Buddha. It's just that they're the closest disciples to Buddha to find this out. So that they have to work out the pride of the delusion of grandeur that I'm the teacher. No, I'm the teacher. No, I'm the teacher. Yeah, well, you got to let go of that when you got yourself looking in front of you. And one of you's got to pick straws. And in destiny, that doesn't work like that. Yeah, because we're kind, we're caring, we're loving. We don't want to pick a straw. We don't want another person to be a loser. It doesn't work like that. So it's a whole other scenario where their problem that they're in is pretty much a gauge for all of humanity to witness the healing of human beings relating. One of these people are married and having children. That's an obstacle that was overcome that is very, very difficult for masters to do when they're in a delusion of grandeur, trying to decide what it is to be a masker. How do you masquerade being a masker? How do you behave? So he would be judged heavily for that because he's not playing the role properly. Yeah, and that in his case could really lead to real problems. But it was destiny. Yeah, it wasn't in the world of Buddhism and Christianity and truth of God. We relax as much as we possibly can so love can guide us into destiny and we could trust in what comes our way in relationships to love. Yeah, and that kind of clears everything up. Yeah. All right, so I read that in a book. Enjoy, everybody.